Greetings, magical mages and spiritual sages, and everyone listening. Welcome to the Age of the Age podcast, and we are on episode 28. And today I'd like to talk a little bit about two things that are complex in their own rights, and we'll be discussing much more about both things. But they do intertwine, and it's that entanglement that comes up for these two areas that I'd like to address today. And one of these areas is the concept of the psychic attack or the zone of the lower vibration or the effects of darkness, all things that could be bundled up together in that kind of category. And I'd like to juxtaposition that subject with the subject of manifestation and the positive ways that we want to encourage alchemy. And so I'd like to talk a little bit about where these two seemingly opposing forces might come together and how that looks. It's my feeling that those of you who have found the podcast and are listening and may continue to listen and may find yourself contacting me or sending a message or helping those that you know to also find this etheric network we're building. It's my feeling that you are very special and that you wouldn't be resonating to these messages unless you understood most of the things we're talking about at some level, and also that you have a desire in yourself to improve not only yourself, but use the magical and spiritual gifts you've been given to help our communities, to help our world improve, and to see a better future for all of our species. And so those qualifiers really make you very, very special in my eyes, because this is not an easy task that we have signed up for. And at first it may sound glorious and epic and heroic, but when we get in the weeds and we're struggling through the muddy days that come from being a witness, that come from holding the light, and we experience the discouragement that can come in so many forms, it doesn't seem so epic anymore, does it? It seems more lonely. It seems more far-fetched. We have self-doubts. We have, disbelief creep in and various other things. And so this is who I'm speaking to. And I know that you know that. Thank you so very much for being here. I know that we share so much because we're doing similar things. We might be accessing the forces of magic, our soul, the spirit, other dimensions. We may be doing that and those types of things in very different ways, each bringing our own unique abilities to bear on that. But what we do have in common is this other drive for improvement, sincere change, and service to others, and we share that. And that, when we share that, it brings its own set of issues that sometimes other people don't understand. And so I hope that as this network grows, we find ourselves in a kindred community, and that we find mutual respect here, and that we find support, interactive support that we can gain from each other, because we're carrying a great deal of responsibility to be willing to stand in truth and to stand in light and do these things. This is no small task. So today I would like to, knowing that you are the audience that I'm speaking to about these things brings comfort to my heart. I know the basic steps and the basic pathway to manifestation. Now, when I say manifestation, I mean all kinds. So this may be that you have a desire to earn more money or receive money. This may be that you are desiring a new love connection. This may be that you want a new home or you want to relocate. This can very definitely include physical manifestations, perhaps an improvement in health or anything that you would see in the physical realm. But another part of deep magic is the inner work that goes on, the true alchemy that not only affects the change in the 3D world, but affects change in all the invisible worlds, including your own inner self, your own attitudes, our own emotions, our desires. These can be changed, our belief systems. These can be adjusted and changed if they need to be in order to help us fulfill our destinies and in order to help us help others. Sometimes the true alchemy and the true manifestations that really need to take place before we even see the 3D changes is on the inside. And that's not easy. That's also a very demanding path. And I know the small select few of you, once again, that will follow through with our podcast and become members of this network. You have that level of dedication. And so there may be casual interest in magic that's out in the world, um, you know, flashes of using affirmations to get something somebody wants. They come in and out and they temporarily entrance somebody, and the ideas that circle around magic or even spiritual work, these can tempt people to give it a try, right? But those that stick with a program that is rough at times and demands a lot of honesty, a lot of authenticity and perseverance, those people are few and far between. And I know once again that that is this audience listening. That's who you are. That's who will continue to listen. That's what this network will be built up around, are brilliant nodes of light that are you. And so we are pretty much aware of this concept that we need these inner changes to happen so our outer changes will happen. And the path to either one is fairly direct, really. It requires at the first belief. If you have someone who absolutely does not believe there's any more to this world than what they can see, touch, smell, and hear, they are going to operate under very different activities. They're going to take part in different activities. They're going to be drawn to changing their life, if even that. They'll go through different processes to do that than the magician, the mystic, the spiritual worker would, because there is no connection for them in their belief system that tells them there's value in paying attention to things they can't see and touch and feel. So they are going to approach their desires in a very different manner. Now, I believe that forces, almost like natural laws of nature, are working with them whether they know it or not, of course. So they're actually activating many of their changes, manifestations, simply because these laws will work whether you believe in them or not. But as far as them taking direct action or purposeful intent towards something, their style is very different, isn't it? So for the magician, it's important that you start with this belief that such a thing can be done. Yes, that we can affect our inner world, our 3D world, our futures, our timelines, our communities, that we can do that, we can achieve effects through magical means, through spiritual work, through contact with multidimensional species. So if we're going to practice magical and spiritual paths, if we're going to walk those paths, of course it needs to start with a belief that they can work, that they have merit, and that they will work. So this might sound very basic, but believe it or not, many people start using magical techniques they hear about or spiritual things like a prayer or anything along these lines, they start it because they don't believe in it. They're hoping that will make them believe in it. They want to believe that these kinds of etheric energies exist, but they don't. So what happens is, very often this becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Oh, I knew it wouldn't work. And back they go to the disbelief arena. So I really sincerely think that we would be shocked to learn how many begin to work with magic or spirit that do not have this basic, very, very basic foundation of belief supporting their work. I know you do. I know you do. And so this is, again, it can be surprising to those of us that take it for granted, but it is not. It is not a base that everyone is able to operate from. So the first thing I would list on this path to be able to manifest on this pathway towards alchemy and deep inner change and transformation would be belief. Belief that it happens. Belief that it's possible, and belief that you yourself can do what it's going to take or can have access to what you will need to do this. The second two on the path, they kind of flip back and forth. Sometimes you'll hit one, the second step, and it'll be alignment, and so other times it'll be desire, and sometimes it's a reverse. A desire will rise up, and then you'll have to determine your alignment. So they're kind of wiggly there, but they are the two center. There's 4 steps that I've listed out for today, just kind of basic steps. I know it's more complex than this, but these are just kind of basic 4. And so this second step of alignment and the third of desire sometimes can be switched around. What it amounts to is that after the basic belief exists that we can do something about our life through magical or spiritual means, then you really won't move forward unless a desire rises up in the person, unless you have or you could see something that you want to either gain or lose or clear or change or help. So some recognition of a change you'd like to see happen makes itself known and it will surface as a desire. It's usually clearly linked to an emotion. Sometimes it's less emotional and less intense, and other times it's linked to kind of a wishing, a lighter-hearted version of an emotion. But nonetheless, it does have an emotion and it does create desire. Now, the third step that I've listed as alignment, this comes in for the magician and the spiritual soul worker as a counterbalance almost to that rising desire. So the alignment is a little more mental at first, the assessment of it. So truly alignment is energetic, but what the person walking the path towards the manifestation is going to then do after this desire comes up, step back a little bit and see if it's aligned with you in any way. If you're wishing for something that you really don't have a feel for, or just is out of your wheelhouse completely, or is based on someone else's desire and you've kind of borrowed it, well, he has a new motorcycle. Yeah, of course I want one. But do you really want one? So the desire has to be true to you. The desire that has arisen needs to fit in with you. And that's what this alignment is all about. Is it truly your desire? What will it bring to you if you get it? Does it help you truly? Is it something you really want? Does it fit in with your path? These types of questions can run through your brain, and it can happen very quickly. It could take 5 minutes. Yep, that's what I want. I want it. Okay, great. And other times you might mentally talk yourself into something. Yeah, that's for sure what I want. Oh yeah, absolutely. That's what I want. But if maybe your gut just doesn't agree with you. Maybe you just can't really work up the feeling like, oh, this is going to happen because I'm so in sync with it. It's just bound to happen. And when that dissonance occurs, then you might have to reassess your alignment with it, because that can be a block. If you're out of alignment with something that you would like to see come into your world, then it may not happen simply because your basic alignment, that basic vibration you have, just keep bumping it out, in spite of all your best intentions. And so once you can determine, yes, I'm aligned with this improvement in my life, or yes, I'm aligned with getting that. Yes, it's my desire. I'm not getting it from anyone else. Okay, then you're through that kind of middle phase of balancing your desires with the assessment of the alignment. And then you come to that last phase of directing your intentions towards the outcome that you are seeking. And again, this is so different for everyone, and that is wonderful. That's as it should be. And so some will go immediately into prayer. Some will seek angelic help that they are used to seeking. Some will turn to guides. Some will turn to contacts and links they have in other dimensions, perhaps with extraterrestrial races or interdimensional races. Very close connections there. And they'll take they'll take their intentions into an to the projection, at the projection level, to one of these realms to work. Others will start designing a spell or a ritual in order to reach, target their intention outwards from them. So this can be done in any manner of ways, but it happens as a concluding step in this little 4-step process, or else, again, you don't get to the end result. All these steps have to take place there. That's why I kind of have them as the basic 4. Without these steps, things don't happen in a magical way. Of course, the world can give you things without you even intending it. Of course, our lives progress in being ruled more by subconscious energies and patterns, karmic patterns perhaps, and other things, even if we don't take any time to do an intended, a focused work. But for the sake of this podcast, we're talking about being able to do manifestation work and transformation work on demand. The ones that are intentional, the pieces of a magical life that are directly related to our actions about doing something about them. So we have this pattern and how we work our magic, and it's pretty universal that these things happen. So now I want to talk a little bit about the attack, the darkness, and the forces that are opposed to you, for whatever reason the case may be, the opposing energies that would like to stop you from attaining the manifestation or prevent you from the transformation. So in some cases, these forces, yours versus the other, may line up on light and dark sides. They might line up on good and evil sides, but sometimes it's almost more subtle, and it's just a weakness versus a strength type of difference. But nonetheless, these things I believe they're real. I believe they happen to us. I believe we do receive energy packets, quantum packets, whatever you want to call, from competing and opposing, as well as forces of affinity, all the time. And we've talked a lot in some previous podcasts about shielding, and of course we will return there over and over, because it's such a vital part for all of us to remember how important it is. But our ideas that I want to discuss today are a little bit different, and it's about more recognition of what an attack looks like or may look like. So a lot of us would definitely recognize a psychic attack if it came, in the form of a big black cloud of demonic dust through our door and started whiplashing around. We might recognize it if it comes in the form of a person that would appear possessed and is physically attacking us. We might recognize it if it is a, real obvious flash of anger that comes towards us, or a very heavy depression or erosion that we feel is happening inside of us. So, what's not as easy to recognize as attack is just the more subtle forms. Now, when we think about this manifestation process, many of us might be inclined to say, oh, yeah, I know why I didn't get it. I know why it didn't manifest for me because I got blocked at the very end. I got attacked for trying to do this, and forces that are working against me, they don't want this to happen. And so they sent a block that interfered with my manifestation coming about. I mean, we're more easily perhaps recognize the end stage styles of blocks. We're pretty familiar with those, that we're just about to achieve something and it doesn't happen. And then that disappointment or recognition that we've been stopped sets in. I think we're even more familiar, pretty familiar with that kind of block. But where we might not think, some areas we might not recognize that I believe do fall sometimes, not always, but can fall into kind of a psychic attack category, are things that can happen to us at any stage of that manifestation process. So let's go back to the first one, which is belief. When you have something in your life that's not going right, maybe it's days, maybe it's months, it's just a tough time, or maybe it's just moments. Things have been good and all of a sudden things aren't so great. When you have a dip emotionally or a setback, disappointment, discouragement, despair, when we have those things happen, what happens to our belief? It takes a dip too, doesn't it? Suddenly questioning. We're questioning, are we naive to believe in these things? Is this just silly of me? I mean, look at how it's going. Look at what's happening. It's awful. I mean, should I believe in magic, spirit, soul? Should I believe in those things when I can look all around me and just see that none of it's doing any good? So it's really easy for us to be, quote, attacked at the belief level. This is where, if we are getting purposely attacked by any kind of force at all, maybe an alliance that foresees how much you're going to do, how much good you're going to do for the world in the future. You would not be a player they would want to see become successful. But any kind of targeted attack at all, or a nebulous style of attack. Maybe your family's never believed in you. It's a negative environment. And so that just kind of permeates the air like a fog. And you're kind of fighting against that. You're fighting to break away from that and show them you can do what you're saying. You're going to succeed in life. But it's a tough fight because that kind of damp, murky, junky energy is just always around. So it could be a very targeted style or it could be an ambience. But for whatever reason, it can hit you at the very basic foundation of the process, at the belief level. And we don't always recognize it as an attack at that level because it doesn't come in necessarily with flaming swords to chop our heads off. It's a very subtle. It's a very subtle lowering of your vibrational energy that occurs in the form of discouragement, in the form of doubt. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be healthy skeptics and that we should observe things and that we should use the intelligence we have to make the best decisions we can. But that's very different than something that's attacking you at a trying to bring a higher vibration that you are sustaining down lower. So we want to be aware of the fact that our energy can be drained, lowered, dropped, robbed, different kinds of things here at any of these stages. When you get to the desire and the alignment stage, it could be delusion. It could be illusion. It could be greed. It could be various other forms of lower vibrational energies that come in to play with your emotions, to play with your normally clear thinking and affect you. And of course, this would slow, if not completely stop, your progress on this manifestation path. So again, I think the point is I'm hoping to remind all of us, and maybe it's because I'm going through a little bit of this after an incident that has happened to me recently. And I didn't quite identify it quickly enough. And I keep wondering what's wrong with me. And now I have recognized, aha, this is actually something I need to fight off. This isn't as much a part of me as I was first believing. So we could call it an attack, or we can call it an invasion of an unwanted energy. So it may not have even been, intentionally focused upon me, or I may not have been targeted in any way other than dropping my guard, dropping shields just enough that the cloudy type of energy that kind of permeates in, that sneaks in, maybe I just allowed that to come in. And so instead of me trying to figure out what's wrong with me, I have finally switched gears after a couple days, and I'm in a mindset now of saying, oh my goodness, how did I let this happen? It's not me. I'm still me. It's time to banish this. It's time to clear this. It's time to put new shields, get them clean and sparkly again. Because what happened was something came in on me. And so I have to recognize the difference, don't I? I have to see when external forces of any type could be the reason for the dip in your energy, as opposed to your own internal thought process, things coming up for you that may be causing the dip in the energy. And it's a very subtle, very tricky type of thing to discern. So it's a lifelong process, of course, and no one of us can perfect this overnight. So I think the awareness of being aware of all the ways external attacks can take, all the forms they can take, all the ways they can come in. That's one that opens our eyes to the possible recognition of when it's happening to us versus when we're working on something internally that we want to solve, we want to work with. And I thought it's interesting when I looked at this that what it does is it goes back and basically interferes with our creative process, because suddenly when you have when your belief slips, you don't have the creative energy, the spark leaves, you don't know where to start because maybe it's all nonsense. So why start? Why what should I do? So this is a very subtle way of stopping the process before it can even get started. And so we want to make sure that our fields, we recognize what's happening in our fields that surround us, in our etheric field, in our closest spiritual body. We want to be very close and in tune to that, because that will save us the time of starting down a creative process, starting down a manifestation process, and getting stuck in the middle because we have a hole in this shield of ours and it worked its way in right when we're in the middle of something. I think it's very important to maintain our shields and become very sensitive to our energy sphere. And we can head off so many problems before they even touch us, before they even get in to the degree that they'll interfere with our intentions. This, I feel, is going to be very, very important because because of the way the world is right now, and because of this possibility that I've talked about, where the timelines are coming in and our choices are going to become very important, that's going to increase the pressure from all kinds of opposing forces that we're all going to be feeling. And it may increase it to such a degree that any of those kinds of pressures could get through our normal set of defenses. If you're just walking around in your home and your community, you're not terribly worried usually about bombs or warfare, because in a lot of our communities, that is not a reality. So we're not having to wear Kevlar vests, and we're not having to have night vision in order to go down to the store. It's just not part of the defenses we need. But if we were in a war zone, if we were living where we were in danger of being shot on our way to get milk, we might think differently, wouldn't we? We would take different kinds of precautions because the chances of something invading us goes up. It's a higher pressure. It's a place where the pressure is on and it's more intense. And so our defenses have to match that rising intensity. And that's what I'm getting at here is we need to get prepared. We need to be doing this because the intensity is already rising. It has already risen. It has already caused a very different kind of level of attack and pressure from, forces to take us down. This is all rising daily. And so we need that kind of extra protection that we might not normally sense we do need. We need that war zone protection right now. And that's going to enable us to truly prosper. This all leads back to allowing you to let your light come into the world. So if we are not providing the kind of defenses we need for ourselves, we're stopping, we're complicit in keeping our light under closed doors. We're not giving ourselves the chance we really need to shine and to do our parts and to make our lives magical. So I hope that this is helpful. I hope it will reach those of you who can feel a resonance to the message, and please share ideas you might have during these increased pressure times with any of us. I think we can do that. Some platforms that the podcast is on, I'm not aware of the ability to comment and interact with the community. I have started on the app Telegram. I've started an Age of the Mage chat group, and we could talk there. And it's nice and secure on Telegram, as good as we're going to get these days. And the other place is on Modern Masters, our site. If you just join as a seeker, it's free. And then what happens is you get access to the chat. And that's also a protected chat area. And we can talk there. And so if you would like to, please leave comments wherever you're seeing or hearing the podcast. But if we'd like to get into more of a community ability to hear each other's voices and interact, I invite you to those two chat areas too. Thank you once again. And I'm sending us all the biggest of blessings. I want us all to be able to find our own ways to accomplishing effective shielding, heightened senses so that we're aware of dips and valleys and stuff, that energy levels in our own personal spheres, and really be able to get those controlled and get our personal energy space protected as best as possible. So many, many thanks. I will return soon, and I will say goodbye for now.